Luna Hayes had mastered the art of making herself invisible, which was quite an achievement considering she was the only human at the Galactic Defense Academy. She shuffled through the corridors like a ghost, head down, clutching her data pad to her chest like a shield. The problem with being invisible, however, was that sometimes you accidentally materialized right in front of a 2-meter-tall reptilian commander who looked like he could bench press a starship. "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry," Luna squeaked, bouncing off Commander Vex Thor's armored chest like a rubber ball. Her data pad went flying, scattering holographic star charts across the polished floor. "I didn't see you there, which is ridiculous because you're literally impossible to miss, and I should have been watching where I was going. But I was reading about gravitational anomalies and—" "Silence, soft flesh," Vex Thor rumbled, his voice like grinding stone. His golden eyes fixed on her with the kind of disdain usually reserved for something stuck to your shoe. "Humans, I still cannot fathom why the Council approved your species for military training. You lack claws, proper teeth, armor plating, and from what I observed, basic coordination." Luna scrambled to collect her scattered data, apologizing to each hologram as she swiped them away. "You're absolutely right, sir. I'm basically a walking disaster. My mom always said I could trip over my own shadow, and honestly, I've actually done that, which sounds impossible, but apparently I'm just that talented at being untalented." The commander's tail lashed with irritation. "Your homeworld's gravity must be laughably weak to produce such fragile specimens. No wonder humans are placed in the remedial combat classes." "Oh, we're not weak," Luna protested, then immediately backtracked. "I mean, we're totally weak, don't get me wrong, but Earth's gravity is actually pretty strong compared to most worlds. Not that I'm complaining or anything. It's just physics, you know." Vex Thor snorted, a sound like steam escaping from a pressure valve. "Physics. Right. The same physics that suggests your species somehow earned a place here through merit, rather than some clerical error." As the commander stomped away, Luna's roommate Klik skittered up on 6 legs, her iridescent carapace clicking with amusement. "Oh, that was beautiful," the insectoid chirped in her translator-synthesized voice. "I particularly enjoyed the part where you apologized to the hologram of the Andromeda Galaxy. Really showed it who's boss." "I was being polite," Luna muttered, finally standing up with her reassembled data pad. "And don't you start with the clerical error thing. I passed all the entrance exams fair and square." "Sure you did," Klik's compound eyes sparkled with mischief. "I'm sure it had nothing to do with the fact that the Academy's computer system still thinks Earth is a low-gravity agricultural world populated by peaceful herbivores. Those bureaucrats couldn't find their own thoraxes with both hands and a star chart." Luna sighed as they walked toward their dormitory. The Academy was a marvel of engineering, its corridors wide enough to accommodate species ranging from the diminutive pipsqueaks to the massive cronthors. Every surface gleamed with that perfect military shine, and the air recyclers hummed with the efficiency of 1,000 worlds' combined technology. It was beautiful, intimidating, and completely overwhelming. "I just want to fit in," Luna said quietly. "Is that too much to ask? Given that you're apparently the galactic equivalent of a lost puppy?" Klik considered this. "Yeah, probably. But hey, at least you're entertaining. Do you know how boring this place was before you showed up? Nothing but standard-issue military posturing and protein paste complaints. Now we get daily comedy shows courtesy of Luna Hayes, the human who apologizes to automatic doors." "I said I was sorry about that," Luna protested. "Those doors are very polite. They always open for me." "They open for everyone, Luna. That's literally their job." As they reached their quarters, Luna couldn't shake the feeling that she was living in a cosmic joke where she was the punchline. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to embarrass herself, and new ways to prove that humans really didn't belong among the stars. Little did she know that the galaxy was about to get a very rude awakening about exactly what humans were capable of. The combat assessment arena looked like something designed by someone who really wanted to make sure everyone knew how serious and terrifying military training could be. The floor was reinforced durasteel, the walls were energy-dampened composite, and the ceiling was high enough to accommodate species that could literally jump over buildings. Luna stood at the edge of the arena, feeling about as intimidating as a houseplant. Today's assessment, announced Instructor Grath, a four-armed warrior whose species had apparently evolved from the universe's most successful predators, will test your hand-to-hand combat abilities. You will face opponents selected by random lottery. Luna raised her hand tentatively. Excuse me, but could I maybe sit this one out? I'm really more of a theoretical combat person. I've read lots of books about fighting, very educational, much safer than actual fighting. Negative, Cadet Hayes. Academy regulations state that all cadets must participate in physical assessments regardless of species or personal preference. The random lottery system, which Luna was beginning to suspect wasn't nearly as random as advertised, paired her with Brutalix, a member of the apex predator species. Brutalix stood nearly 3 meters tall, weighed in at a solid 700 kilograms, and looked like someone had taken a crocodile, fed it nothing but protein supplements and pure rage, then taught it to walk upright and file its teeth to razor points. "Oh, come on," Luna whispered to herself. "What are the odds?" Approximately 847 to 1 against Klik, helpfully calculated from the spectator section. I may have mentioned to the computer that you needed more challenging opponents. My bad. The other cadets immediately began placing bets. Zorf, an energy being who looked like someone had taught lightning to be pretentious, flickered with amusement. I give the human 30 seconds before she starts crying. 20 seconds, countered Sergeant Howell, the canine officer whose species had evolved from pack hunters. Brutalix doesn't believe in warm-up periods. You're all being too generous, added Thok, a silicon-based life form who spoke in grinding tones. I predict immediate unconsciousness upon first contact. Luna could hear every word, and each bet felt like another nail in her confidence coffin. She approached Brutalix, who was performing what appeared to be a pre-combat ritual involving a lot of roaring and intimidating gestures. "Hi there," she said politely. "I'm Luna. I know we're supposed to fight, but maybe we could just, pretend? I could fall down dramatically. You could roar triumphantly. Everyone wins?" Brutalix's response was to bare his teeth in what definitely wasn't a smile. "I will crush your soft bones, little mammal. Your species' weakness will be displayed for all to witness." "Right, well, that's not terrifying at all," Luna muttered. "Could we maybe start with something less crushing? Perhaps some light intimidation? A strongly worded warning?" The medical team wheeled in additional equipment, including what looked suspiciously like a body bag. Luna noticed this and raised her hand again. "Is that really necessary? I mean, I know I'm not great at this, but I'm not planning to die dramatically or anything." "Standard protocol for interspecies combat," Instructor Grath announced, "especially when the physical disparity is this significant." "Physical disparity," Luna repeated. "That's a polite way of saying I'm about to get turned into human paste, isn't it?" "Essentially, yes," Grath confirmed with what might have been sympathy if his species were capable of such emotions. Brutalix cracked his knuckles, a sound like breaking stones. "I will make this quick, soft flesh. Your pain will be brief." "How considerate," Luna said weakly. "I really appreciate the whole merciful approach to my complete annihilation." The betting continued around them, with odds becoming increasingly ridiculous. Someone was apparently taking bets on whether Luna would remain conscious long enough to surrender, while another pool focused on how many pieces she'd end up in. Luna looked around at the faces of her classmates, all eagerly anticipating her humiliation. Even the instructors seemed to be treating this as entertainment rather than education. The only friendly face she could see was Klik, who was somehow managing to look encouraging despite having calm eyes that made reading expressions basically impossible. Well, Luna said to herself, at least it can't get any worse. The universe, as it turned out, had a very different definition of worse than Luna did. The combat assessment began with all the ceremony of a funeral, which Luna thought was probably appropriate given what everyone expected to happen to her. Brutalix stalked forward with the confidence of a predator who had never met anything that could seriously threaten him. Luna immediately began what she privately called her apologetic retreat strategy. "Sorry, excuse me, just getting out of your way," she said, hopping backward as Brutalix's massive claws swept through the air where her head had been. "I know this is supposed to be a fight, but I'm really more of a flight person. You know, fight or flight? I'm definitely the flight part of that equation." Brutalix snarled with frustration as his follow-up strike missed Luna by inches. For someone who was supposedly weak and clumsy, she was remarkably good at not being where his attacks were aimed. "Stand still, coward. Face your destruction with dignity." "Oh, I don't think dignity and I have been formally introduced," Luna replied, ducking under a swing that would have decapitated a smaller building. "And standing still seems counterproductive to my whole not dying strategy." The spectators were getting restless. Zor flickered with impatience. "This is taking too long. The human is just running away like a frightened prey animal." "Brutalix is toying with her," Sergeant Howell observed. "He could end this any time he wants." Thog's crystalline form resonated with annoyance. "I did not come here to watch an extended chase scene. Where is the promised violence?" Luna continued her evasive maneuvers, apologizing to Brutalix every time she dodged. "Sorry about that. I know you're trying to hit me, and I keep moving. That must be really frustrating." "I'm frustrating myself, honestly." Brutalix's patience finally snapped. With a roar that shook the arena's reinforced walls, he charged forward with every ounce of his 700-kilogram mass, intending to end this humiliating dance once and for all. His claws extended, his jaws opened, and he became a living missile of predatory fury. Luna saw him coming and did what any reasonable person would do when facing an unstoppable force of nature. She panicked. "Oh no, oh no, oh no," she said rapidly, and in her panic, she did something that would later be described by witnesses as physically impossible, completely insane, and the most terrifying thing we've ever seen a human do. She caught him. Brutalix's charge, which should have turned Luna into a small crater, instead resulted in her grabbing the massive predator mid-leap. For a moment they were frozen in tableau, Brutalix's expression shifting from murderous rage to complete bewilderment as he found himself suspended in the air by a human who weighed roughly one-fourth what he did. Luna said, holding 700 kilograms of confused predator like an oversized, very angry cat. "This is awkward." Then, because panic makes people do strange things and because Luna's brain was apparently running on pure adrenaline and terror, she threw him. Not gently. Not carefully. She hurled Brutalix across the arena like he was a medicine ball, which would have been impressive if medicine balls weighed 700 kilograms and had teeth. Brutalix sailed through the air with the grace of a brick, his expression cycling through confusion, disbelief, and then a kind of existential horror as he realized he was flying. He hit the reinforced wall with a sound like a small meteor impact, leaving a crater in the supposedly indestructible composite material. The arena fell silent except for the gentle patter of debris falling from the ceiling. Luna stood in the center of the arena, still in her defensive stance, looking around at the stunned faces of her classmates. "Is everyone okay?" she asked anxiously. That sounded like it hurt. "Should I call a medic?" Brutalix slid down the wall like a deflated balloon, leaving a trail of cracks in the composite. He hit the ground with a wet thud and didn't move. "Oh my gosh," Luna said, rushing over to the crater. "Are you all right? I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to throw you that hard. I was just panicking, and you were really heavy, and I guess I overcompensated." She knelt next to the unconscious predator, checking for signs of life. "Please don't be dead. I really can't handle having killed someone on my first combat assessment. That would be such a bad grade." The medical team, who had been prepared for Luna's injuries, scrambled to treat Brutalix instead. The betting pools fell silent as everyone tried to process what they'd just witnessed. "Did," Zor flickered uncertainly, "did the human just throw Brutalix across the arena?" "That appeared to be what happened," Thog confirmed, his crystalline form resonating with confusion. Sergeant Howell's ears were flat against his head. "That's impossible. Humans don't have that kind of strength. Luna looked up from where she was awkwardly patting Brutalix's unconscious form. I'm really sorry, everyone. I know that wasn't very sporting. Maybe we could call it a draw? The arena's sensor systems were having what could only be described as a nervous breakdown. Alarms were blaring, warning lights were flashing, and the main display was cycling through error messages in 17 different languages. The computer kept trying to calculate the force Luna had just generated and apparently didn't like the answers it was getting. Impossible force detected, the system announced in its annoyingly calm voice. Recalibrating sensors. Error. Error. Does not compute. Commander Vex Thor stormed into the arena, his golden eyes blazing with the kind of fury usually reserved for mutinous subordinates and budget meetings. What is the meaning of this chaos? Why are the sensors malfunctioning? And why is there a Brutalix-shaped hole in my wall? Luna stood up from where she'd been awkwardly trying to make Brutalix more comfortable, which mostly involved arranging his unconscious limbs in what she hoped were non-painful positions. I can explain, sir. Well, actually, I can't explain it, but I can describe what happened, which isn't the same thing as explaining, but it's better than nothing. Cadet Hayes, Vex Thor's voice could have cut steel. Did you, or did you not just throw a 700-kilogram predator across my training facility? I mean, technically yes, but it was an accident. Luna protested, wringing her hands. I was just trying to get him to stop charging at me, and he was really heavy, and I panicked, and somehow my arms just sort of did that thing. It was probably just adrenaline. Humans get really strong when they're scared, right? Fight or flight response and all that. The medical team examining Brutalix looked up with expressions of professional concern. Commander, the patient has 3 fractured ribs, a minor concussion, and what appears to be a severely bruised ego. He's stable, but he's going to need extensive treatment. I'm so sorry, Luna said for the 15th time. I didn't mean to hurt him. I was just trying not to get hurt myself. Is there anything I can do? I could write him an apology note? Maybe some flowers? Do his species like flowers? The other cadets had been backing away from Luna ever since she'd launched Brutalix into orbit, and now they were maintaining what appeared to be a safety perimeter. Zorf was flickering nervously. Sergeant Howell's hackles were raised, and even Thuck seemed to be resonating at a higher frequency than usual. This is impossible, Vex Thor muttered, pulling up Luna's file on his personal datapad. According to our records, humans are a weak species from a low-gravity world. They have no natural weapons, no armor, no enhanced strength capabilities. That's what I keep telling everyone, Luna agreed. We're basically just smart monkeys with anxiety issues. I have no idea how I did that thing with the throwing. Maybe it was a fluke. Sometimes weird things happen when you're really scared. Klik scuttled forward, her compound eyes gleaming with what Luna was beginning to recognize as her "I know something you don't know" expression. You might want to check those records again, Commander. I've been doing some research on human homeworld specifications. What research? Vex Thor demanded. Well, it turns out that Earth's gravity is listed incorrectly in the Academy database. Someone entered it as 0.3 standard when it should be 2.7 standard. That's nearly 3 times galactic normal. The arena fell silent except for the continued beeping of the sensor systems and Brutalix's unconscious groaning. That's impossible, Vex Thor said weakly. If humans evolved in nearly 3 times standard gravity, that would make them essentially organic tanks, Klik finished cheerfully, living their entire lives in what the rest of us would consider a crushing high-gravity environment. Every step they take, every movement they make, is essentially strength training by our standards. Luna looked around at the horrified faces of her classmates. Is that bad? I mean, I know Earth's gravity is a little strong, but it's not that bad once you get used to it. You just have to be careful not to trip, because when you fall, you really fall, you know. A little strong? Zorf's energy form was flickering so rapidly he looked like a strobe light. You call crushing, bone-breaking, muscle-destroying gravitational force a little strong? Well, yeah, Luna said, confused. I mean, it's not like we had a choice. That's just how our planet works. You adapt or you die, right? Although I guess that explains why I always feel so light and bouncy here. I thought it was just the artificial atmosphere. The implications were sinking in around the arena like a slowly spreading stain. If humans were living their entire lives in what amounted to a natural strength training environment, then Luna wasn't weak at all. She was potentially the strongest being in the academy, and she had no idea. Oh, Luna said as the realization hit her. Oh no, this is really bad, isn't it? The unconscious Brutalix groaned again, as if agreeing with her assessment. The Academy's emergency response protocols had never been designed to handle a situation where the weakest cadet turned out to be a potential weapon of mass destruction. Within an hour of the Brutalix incident, as it was already being called, the administrative levels were buzzing with activity that looked suspiciously like panic. Luna sat in the medical bay, watching the technicians run their third set of comprehensive scans on her. She'd been trying to be helpful by staying very still, but every time she moved even slightly, someone would flinch and ask her to please not do that. I really don't understand what the big deal is, she said to the medical officer, a slug-like being whose species had evolved from the galaxy's most cautious herbivores. I just threw one guy. It's not like I destroyed the academy or anything. The medical officer's eye stalks swiveled nervously. Cadet Hayes, according to our calculations, the force you generated was equivalent to a small explosive device. If you had aimed differently, you could have sent Brutalix through the wall, through the corridor behind it, and possibly into the next building. But I didn't, Luna pointed out reasonably. I was very careful to throw him into the wall instead of through it. I'm not a monster. That's what terrifies us, the medical officer muttered under his breath. Down in the testing lab, Luna was asked to demonstrate some basic human capabilities for the benefit of the Academy's scientific staff. She tried to explain that she wasn't particularly strong by human standards, but they insisted on documenting everything. Could you please lift that equipment case? Asked Dr. Tentacles, a cephalopod-like researcher whose species had evolved from the galaxy's most intelligent invertebrates. Luna looked at the case, which was about the size of a coffee table and appeared to be made of some kind of dense metal. Are you sure? It looks expensive. It's designed to withstand the impact of a meteor, Dr. Tentacles assured her. Please, just lift it normally. Luna shrugged and picked up the case with one hand, holding it easily at arm's length. Around the lab, several researchers made notes that looked suspiciously like last wills and testaments. This is normal for you? Dr. Tentacles asked, his tentacles writhing with what might have been scientific curiosity or pure terror. Well, I'm not exactly the strongest person from Earth, Luna said, setting the case down gently. I mean, I never played sports or anything. I'm more of a books person. My dad's a construction worker, and he could probably lift this with his pinky finger. And don't even get me started on professional athletes. They're basically superhuman. Superhuman? Dr. Tentacles repeated weakly. It's by your standards. Yeah, it's pretty impressive what the human body can do when it's properly trained. I saw this documentary once about these people who could lift cars and run marathons and climb mountains and stuff. Really amazing. Amazing. The research team exchanged glances that spoke volumes about their collective mental state. Meanwhile, in the Academy's command center, Commander Vex Thor was having what could only be described as an existential crisis. The Galactic Defense Council was demanding answers, and he was fresh out of explanations that didn't sound completely insane. Let me understand this correctly, came the voice of High Admiral Zephyx through the communication array. You're telling me that the species we've been treating as the weakest in the galaxy are actually natural-born super soldiers? That appears to be the case, sir, Vex Thor replied, his voice hollow with defeat. We've been operating under fundamentally incorrect assumptions about human physiology. And none of our extensive background checks caught this. The paperwork was filed under harmless agricultural species, sir. No one thought to double-check the planetary specifications. There was a long pause that somehow conveyed the sound of an entire bureaucracy realizing it had made a colossal mistake. How many humans are currently enrolled in Academy programs? High Admiral Zephyx asked finally. 17, sir. All of them have been performing poorly in physical assessments, so we assumed they were simply not suited for military service. They were performing poorly because they were holding back, the High Admiral realized. They've been trying not to hurt anyone. Back in the medical bay, Luna was still trying to convince everyone that she was perfectly normal. Look, I know the gravity thing makes me seem stronger than I am, but I'm really not dangerous. I've never hurt anyone in my life. Well, except for Brutalix, but that was an accident. I'm actually really clumsy. Ask anyone. Klik, who had been monitoring the situation from her usual position of amused observation, finally spoke up. Luna, honey, you need to understand something. What you just did would be like me casually punching through a starship hull. You're not clumsy. You're terrifying. I'm not terrifying, Luna protested. I'm Luna. I apologize to automatic doors and say thank you to food dispensers. Terrifying people don't do that. Terrifying people, who are trying very hard not to be terrifying, do exactly that, Klik replied. You've been tiptoeing around the galaxy trying not to break anything, and we all thought you were just weak. Turns out you're the most dangerous thing in the Academy, and you're too polite to hurt anyone. Luna considered this. So what you're saying is that I'm accidentally terrifying? Catastrophically terrifying, Klik confirmed. And the best part is, you have no idea how to turn it off. 3 weeks after the Brutalix incident, Luna Hayes had become something of a legend at the Galactic Defense Academy. Not the good kind of legend, like the cadet who showed exceptional courage. More like the kind of legend that made people cross to the other side of the corridor when they saw her coming. The Academy had implemented what they called human safety protocols, which was a polite way of saying everything Luna touches now comes with a warning label. The training equipment had been reinforced, the walls had been reinforced, and some of the more fragile species had been issued what looked suspiciously like blast shields. Luna sat in the cafeteria, eating her lunch at a table that had been specifically designed to withstand human interaction. It was made of the same material they used for starship hulls, and it still wobbled slightly when she set down her juice box. I asked for a normal college experience, she said to Klik, who was the only one brave enough to sit with her anymore. You know, make friends, learn things, maybe join a study group. I did not ask to become the Academy's personal weapon of mass destruction. To be fair, Klik pointed out, you're still learning things. You've learned that humans are basically living weapons. You've learned that the entire galaxy has been filing your species under the wrong category. And you've learned that Brutalix makes very interesting squeaking noises when he's unconscious. He's still not talking to me, Luna said sadly. I wrote him 3 apology notes, but he just hides behind other cadets whenever he sees me coming. Yesterday I tried to wave at him, and he threw himself behind a food dispenser. Can you blame him? You literally launched him into next week. His worldview has been fundamentally altered. He went from apex predator to chew toy in about 30 seconds. Luna poked at her lunch with a fork that had been specially designed not to bend under human grip strength. I just want things to go back to normal. I want to be ignored and underestimated again. Being feared is terrible. I hate to break it to you, Klik said, but normal is never coming back. You can't unthrow a 700-kilogram predator across a room. That's not how physics works. Around them, the cafeteria hummed with nervous energy. Other cadets would glance at Luna, then quickly look away when she noticed. Conversations died when she walked by. Even the food dispensers seemed to dispense her meals more quickly, as if they were afraid she might get impatient. The worst part, Luna continued, is that everyone keeps asking me to demonstrate things. Yesterday, Instructor Grath asked me to gently move a training dummy, and when I did, it flew across the room and embedded itself in the wall. I was trying to be gentle. You're gentle as everyone else's holy stars. Run for your lives, Klik observed. You're going to have to recalibrate your understanding of normal. The Academy's administrative response had been swift and comprehensive. New regulations had been implemented specifically for human cadets, including mandatory strength limiters, specialized training equipment, and what the bureaucrats called environmental impact assessments, for any physical activities involving humans. Luna's combat training had been moved to a specialized facility that looked suspiciously like a bomb testing range. Her sparring partners were now holographic constructs, because apparently no one was willing to risk another Brutalix situation. "I broke the holographic simulation yesterday," Luna reported. "I was trying to grapple with a holographic opponent, and somehow I managed to overload the projectors. The technician said it was impossible, but there I was, holding a handful of sparks and apologizing to a bunch of very confused engineers." "You broke a hologram," Klik repeated. "Do you understand how that's physically impossible?" "I'm starting to think that physically impossible doesn't apply to humans the way it does to everyone else," Luna said. "Which is really inconvenient, because I liked living in a universe where the laws of physics made sense." As if summoned by their conversation, Commander Vex Thor approached their table. The massive reptilian officer looked like he'd aged several years in the past few weeks, and his usually pristine uniform showed signs of stress-related wear. "Cadet Hayes," he said, his voice carefully controlled. "I need to speak with you about your upcoming advanced combat assessments." "Oh no," Luna said immediately. "Please tell me you're not going to make me fight more people. I really can't handle accidentally hospitalizing anyone else. My anxiety levels are already through the roof." "Actually, we've decided to waive your combat requirements," Vex Thor said. "The review board has determined that you pose what they're calling an unacceptable risk to other cadets, training equipment, and the structural integrity of the academy itself." "So I'm expelled?" Luna asked, trying to decide whether she should be relieved or disappointed. "No, you're being transferred to a specialized program," Vex Thor explained. "Something more suited to your unique capabilities. You'll be studying strategic planning, diplomatic protocols, and advanced xenobiology. Basically, all the things that don't require you to physically interact with anything that can be broken." Luna looked around the cafeteria, where her fellow cadets were still maintaining their respectful distance. "Will I still get to graduate with everyone else?" "If by everyone else you mean the other cadets who haven't been reclassified as potential extinction-level events, then yes." "That's not very flattering," Luna protested. "It's not meant to be flattering," Vex Thor replied. "It's meant to be accurate." After the commander left, Luna sat in contemplative silence for a moment. Then she reached for her juice box and accidentally crushed it, sending liquid spraying across the table. "Oops," she said, grabbing a napkin to clean up the mess. "I guess I'm still getting used to this whole accidentally dangerous thing." Klik watched her friend carefully dabbing at the spilled juice with the concentration of someone defusing a bomb. "You know what's funny about all this?" "What?" "What? You're still the same person you were before everyone found out about the gravity thing. You're still polite, you still apologize to inanimate objects, and you still put way too much effort into not bothering anyone. The only thing that's changed is that now everyone knows you could probably bench press a starship if you really wanted to." Luna considered this. "So you're saying I'm still me, just with more existential dread about my potential for accidental property damage?" "Exactly. You're Luna Hayes, the most apologetic weapon of mass destruction in the galaxy." As if to prove her point, Luna stood up to throw away her lunch tray and accidentally bumped into a nearby table with her hip. The table, which was bolted to the floor, shifted slightly. Every cadet in the immediate area immediately vacated their seats and moved to a safer distance. "Sorry," Luna called out to the fleeing cadets. "I didn't mean to do that. The table's fine. Everyone's fine. Please don't run away." But they were already gone, leaving Luna standing alone in a circle of empty space, holding her lunch tray and looking confused. "I really need to work on my social skills," she said to Klik. "Your social skills are fine," Klik replied. "It's your species that's the problem. You've managed to accidentally terrify the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy simply by existing. That's actually pretty impressive." Luna looked around at the Academy's pristine corridors, its advanced technology, and its carefully maintained atmosphere of military precision. Despite everything that had happened, she still felt like she belonged here. Maybe not in the way she'd originally imagined, but in some weird, uniquely human way. "You know what?" she said finally. I think I'm okay with being accidentally terrifying. At least people remember my name now. They definitely remember your name, Klik agreed. It's probably going to be in textbooks someday. Luna Hayes, the human who made the galaxy, realized that bureaucratic incompetence can have truly spectacular consequences. As they walked back to their quarters, Luna couldn't help but smile. She'd come to the Academy hoping to prove that humans belonged among the stars. Mission accomplished, even if it wasn't quite what she'd had in mind. After all, the galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. And really, wasn't that what the whole H-Fi thing was about? Even if she had achieved it by accidentally throwing a 700-kilogram predator across a room. Some victories, she supposed, were just more accidental than others.